Portions of these manifestos detail the shooter's disgusting ideology of hate. Plainly put, this shooting was racially motivated.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the racially motivated attack that happened in Jacksonville, Florida, and that was carried out by 21-year-old Ryan Christopher Palmetto. He was a white male. He went and killed 3 black people. Now, before I continue, may all of the victims rest in peace and prayers out to their families. The guy was a racist. There's a manifesto, as you saw in the beginning. His objective was to kill black people specifically. Now, there's a lot I need to say here because there's a lot of arguing, a lot of back and forth about the race part, about guns, about politics. Everything is wrapped up in this case, and we're going to address everything. But first things first, let's look at some details. All right. So, as I said from the beginning, they identified this person who is now dead. He turned the gun on himself after he killed innocent people. He was 21-year-old Ryan Christopher Palmetto, white male. He killed 2 men and 1 woman. And the woman he killed was sitting in her car. So what he did, he went to a Dollar General, shot one lady in her car multiple times, like 10, 11 times. And then he went in the store and killed 2 more people. That's what happened. So the victims, 52-year-old Angela Michelle Carr, 19-year-old Arnold Joseph A.J. Lagarrett Jr., and 29-year-old Gerald Deshaun Gallion. So the sheriff called the manifesto the diary of a madman. And he was mad, he was crazy, and probably had mental health issues. We'll get to that in a minute. Authorities believe the shooter went to an HBCU, a black college, Edward Waters University, to change clothes. He had an opportunity to do violence, but he didn't. So apparently he was on the campus and changed his clothes, but did not hurt anyone there. I'm not really sure why. Thankfully he didn't, but I don't know, the reasoning. There was no flag that could have come up. The guns were 100% legal, the sheriff said when asked about the shooter's guns. There was nothing we could have done to stop him from owning a firearm. There were no red flags. Now, I got to kind of push back on that. I've read that he had been previously been given an involuntary mental health exam, and I read that he was on medication. So if these things are true, that he had an involuntary mental health exam and he was on medication, I'm not quite sure how you pass a background check like that to get your guns legally. If he's the one that went and bought the guns, I don't know how that works. We'll talk more about guns and whatnot in just a moment, so y'all hang tight. Let's get into some video from the sheriff out there in Jacksonville. We're gonna see some of what we saw in the beginning, and then we're gonna get to a little bit more. If you want to see any of these clips and articles, I will link to everything in the description box. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
The Clay County Sheriff's Office, who has been assisting our agency with this investigation, received information after the shooting that the shooter had authored several manifestos, one to his parents, one to the media, and one to federal agents. Portions of these manifestos detail the shooter's disgusting ideology of hate. Plainly put, this shooting was racially motivated, and he hated black people. He wanted to kill niggers. That's the one and only time I'll use that word. I want to be very clear that there is absolutely no evidence that the shooter is part of any large group. The Clay County Sheriff's Office.
Now that's very important because although this was racially motivated, he left manifestos that said exactly why he did what he did. There's no evidence to say, oh, this is like the Klan or something coming back. Because I've seen some of that. Oh, this is white supremacists coming together trying to attack black people. What you have is one racist, ridiculous person who is now dead. Thank goodness, because if he wasn't dead and he was in custody, I would say take him out back and just end it right there. Don't waste no taxpayer money on keeping him alive for 25 years. Take him on out back, string him up, and be done with it. But thankfully, he's dead. Unfortunately, before he died, he had to kill 3 innocent black people. I mean, if you want to kill yourself, just kill yourself. I'm not saying anybody should, but you understand what I mean. Now, here is another video here about guns. Now, this is going to be a big topic of discussion oh, the guns are to blame. I think not. And we're going to hear from the sheriff why that shouldn't be the case. Let's check it out.
Well, we have to stop people that have bad intentions. Guns are, the story is always about guns. The people are bad. This guy's a bad guy. If I could take my gun off right now and I lay it on this counter, nothing will happen. It'll sit there. But as soon as a wicked person grabs a hold of that handgun and starts shooting people with it, there's the problem. The problem is the individual. Now, guns are a tool that people use to do horrible things, but it's the individuals that wield these things. So we are working hard to try to stop that. But in this situation, in this case, there was nothing illegal about him owning the firearms.
There you go. Now, what he said about the guns, hey, it's the person that has the gun is the problem. The gun itself, look, like you said, you take the gun off your waist, put it right there on the counter. The gun is not just going to act and start shooting people. It takes a bad person, a wicked person, a crazy person, whatever it is. It takes that person to use this tool for nefarious purposes. Same thing with a knife. Normally a knife is used to open things, cut things, prepare food, or whatever the case may be. Chopping wood, firewood, you're using it for that purpose, but then someone can take that and then attack somebody with it. Same thing with the vehicle. You're using it to get from point A to point B. You're going for a ride, you're racing, you are using your car for its intended purpose. But then you might use your car and hit someone on the road, run them over. You're using a tool for nefarious purposes is because you want to do it, and that's what you want to do. And if you don't want to do it, it's because you don't want to do it. It's very simple. So to try and ban guns, now I'm going to say one more thing about the guns before we move on to the next thing. Some say that it makes sense to go ahead and restrict guns from legal ownership because that would reduce some of the mass shootings you see on television. Would it though? Because a lot of these actual mass shootings, not the ones you see all the time that go into school and whatnot, but in the neighborhoods and whatnot, a lot of these mass shootings are done with illegal weapons, stolen weapons. So how are you really going to stop that? If anything, you're going to cause a lot of violent incidences to rise. People are not going to be able to protect themselves. I would say to anybody that is worried about a white supremacist or somebody like that attacking them with a gun, bring your own weapon so you can defend yourself against that person, because evil people exist, bad people exist. But what are you going to do to protect yourself is the question. Now, there's more. Let me get into a few more things here. All right. Oh, here's something. Speaking about the politics. Now, of course, you got to have politics wrapped up in this. Now, you have Vivek being interviewed by Chuck Todd over at was it MSNBC or just regular NBC? Let's watch this.
I think there are more race-based violent crimes on the right than on the left. Why is this a lot more pervasive on the right?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I think that there's a lot more violence that's also pervasive in parts of the country that supposedly are left-wing voter bases. So I don't think this is a left versus right issue, and I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either, Chuck, especially in the wake of a tragedy like this one. The fact is there are more black men dying on the south side of Chicago.
Do you ignore the elements that allowed this manifesto to spread online, and that it does feel as if social media connects some of these hateful ideologies?
Well, the fact of the matter is I do think we have two standards that we're even applying if we're having a conversation about manifestos. We still have not yet even seen the manifesto of that transgender shooter in Nashville of a Christian school, and yet here we're focusing on the motive. So if we want to look at this through a politicized lens, let's look at what the political media and the political establishment is doing differentially in how they analyze different crimes and then create a new narrative around it.
Absolutely. I'm not a big Vivek fan, but what he said here was 100% correct. Right on point. And to my next point about the Nashville shooting, where is that manifesto? Why have we not heard anything about that? I understand not releasing the entire thing to the public. I understand that. But can we not know what's in it? Can we not know the motivation behind the trans person doing what they did? And now if you want to talk politics, what's up with all these LGBT, trans people doing things like this? Post nightclub, what was that? Now, some are going to say this was an attack against the LGBT. Maybe it was, but the person who did it was also LGBT. Okay, so it's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. Are we not going to dig into that? Are we not going to look into the politics behind that? Or are we only going to examine the politics when the person appears to some people to be quote unquote conservative or right wing? Now, last I checked, being conservative, being right wing did not mean you went and just killed innocent people. That's not what it means to me. Maybe to Chuck Todd it does, but I digress. Very good points made by Vivek. Now, here's a little bit more about the shooter. We're not going to read through these entire articles, but we're going to get through some of it here. Okay. Now, you see what's going on. Racist Jacksonville mass shooting suspect was socially awkward, lived with parents. I'm going to read some of this right here. All right. So he had a swastika painted AR-15 rifle, struggled socially growing up, and he had 2 guns. He was into internet humor, introverted, socially awkward. You know, the typical story. Typical story. It's always like this. Okay, socially awkward, isolated, mental health. Always the same story every single time. All right. Now, you play video games, et cetera, et cetera. Now, here's the interesting part that I kind of mentioned earlier. Quote, from what I understand, he was on medication, and for some reason, he got off of it probably a few days or a couple of days ahead of that. That's probably when he snapped. So this is the guy right here. I mean, come on, you like this. This is the face that you're always going to see in these kind of situations. This is the guy right here. He fits the typical profile. But because, I mean, you may look at him and judge him one way, but does that mean that he can't own the weapon if he's not done anything illegal? Now, again, being on the medication and having the involuntary mental health evaluation, maybe that shouldn't have been a red flag. But is it a thing that can preclude someone from owning a weapon? I'm not sure, because that can be weaponized against people. Okay, so, and here we go. His parents are the type that will help anybody, anytime, anywhere. And it was a tragedy when that's happened. So here are the victims here. This is the lady that was in her car. And this is a young man that was, I believe, at work. And this is the guy when he went into the store with his weapon. Now, again, the way to combat people like this, crazy, ridiculous, racist, nut jobs like this, if they have your own weapon. Okay? Now, if I'm in the store and I got it on me, I'm popping them immediately, instantly. As soon as I see him try to come around the corner, I'm popping them right away. So we could just be done with it and then it's over with. That's the way you combat these kind of things. People talking about, racism and we're victims and we're helpless. I mean, I think it's just kind of a useless thing to talk about stuff like that. All right. So, and then here's another article, racially motivated attack. And let me just keep on going here. Now, I got to add this piece here because this is a thing that I've seen on the internet. People talking about, well, what about this case? What about that case? Why is it a hate crime? It's kind of redundant. What about this case in Georgia? Now, this case in Georgia was where this guy right here killed 4 white people. Now, some are saying this is also a hate crime. I mean, it could be a hate crime, but I don't know if it is. Just because a black person kills whites or a white person kills blacks or any other race kills other races or whatever does not mean it's automatically a hate crime or that it's racially motivated. You could assume that it's racially motivated, but maybe it's not. This guy was in the military, a veteran, had bad mental health problems for a long time, many years, might have had PTSD and a bunch of other stuff. I think he went to Afghanistan. Like, this guy had a lot of issues. Okay, he had a lot of problems that already existed, and he didn't get any help for his mental health problems, and then he went and snapped. Could it have been racially motivated? Sure. But maybe it wasn't. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, this was a shooting that happened in Hampton, Georgia, which is not far from Atlanta. It's about 25 miles south of Atlanta city proper. He killed 4 people that lived in the same neighborhood that he lived in and then stole one of the man's vehicles. And all 4 that he killed were white, and he's black. Could it be a hate crime again? I don't know. Maybe the guy's just crazy and went on a rampage and snapped. I don't know. There was no manifesto. There was nothing that says, I killed them because they're white. The same way that it was something that the guy we just covered left that says, I killed them because they're black. We have that in the first case, but not in this case. All you could do is assume right here, but in the other one, you have evidence. But as I close, I want to say this. Again, prayers out to all those who passed away, all the victims, that is. I don't mean the shooter. All the victims of the shooter, may they rest in peace, and prayers out to the family. And again, the way you can combat things like this is to have your own weapon. By limiting legal access to weapons, which is your Second Amendment right, all you're going to do is leave yourself open to evil people who wish you harm. So don't be a victim. Be armed, stay strapped, stay vigilant, stay aware of your surroundings. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your thoughts on this case and other cases that are kind of similar? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. People that are bad, that are racist, that are evil, they exist. So what are you going to do to prevent from becoming the victim? Have your own weapons. Train with your weapons. That's all you really can do, because we're living in the crazy world. It's an evil world. Trying to limit legal access to weapons is only going to affect law-abiding citizens. The criminals, those that don't mean you well, those that want to terrorize you, those that want to take things from you, they don't care about the laws. So they're going to have their weapons. They're going to have their arms. They're going to terrorize you while you have no ability to protect yourself. The police can't be there 24/7. The police are not your Secret Service bodyguards. They're going to come after the fact to take crime scene pictures and try to find a guy that did it. Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.